So welcome on board. So let's start off now with one of the biggest stories of the week, talking about the mantle of leadership that has now been conferred on Afam Osigwe, who is now the 32nd president of the Nigerian Bar Association. The senior advocate of Nigeria revealed plans to restore confidence in the nation's justice delivery sector and build a proactive bar. We have details in this report.
Present to you the 32nd President of the Nigerian Bar Association.
Afam Osigwe's swearing in comes with celebrations by his supporters across the bar body. But in his inaugural speech, he calls for moderation in actions and utterances so as not to further polarize the bar.
In order to collectively work towards achieving the enormous task ahead of us, we should therefore not celebrate in a manner that may further polarize the bar. The election is over. It is now time to work together to build a bar that represents what we all believe in. We therefore need all hands on deck.
The senior advocate takes over from Yakubu Chinoko Mekiau, also an SAN, at a time when the clamor for better administration of justice and respect for the rule of law rages across the country, which he promises to address.
Let us put our hands on the plow and not look back. Because anyone who does that, understanding that the rebuilding of Nigeria is a collective responsibility.
We work towards ensuring that government policies and programs meet the yearnings and aspirations of our people as they relate to the provisions of good governance, transparency in financial expenditure, reducing drastically the cost of governance, and ensuring that the welfare of our people is given topmost priority.
The new NBA president also set up 2 committees, amongst others, to conduct quarterly reviews of appellate courts' judgments and push for justice sector reforms.
We hereby set up the Adjudicative Review Committee, ARC, of the NBA. The committee will periodically review the decisions from the appellate courts, especially the Supreme Court and Court of Appeal, and present well-researched commentaries on such cases that nudge the courts towards a more coherent and consistent adjudication that promotes the rule of law and democratic freedoms.
Mr. Osigwe adds that the NBA will also ensure strict compliance with the recent Supreme Court judgment, which proclaimed financial independence and autonomy for all the local governments in Nigeria, in line with the Constitution as amended. Kemi Boladiemo, TVC News, Lagos. So what are the tasks ahead of the new NBA president, Mazi Afam Osigwe, especially with all the challenges that are affecting the country? What can be done in this regard? What can this very... Thank you for staying with us. You're watching TVC Breakfast Saturday. We have joining us now via Zoom a senior advocate of Nigeria, Damson Adeboro, and he is joining us to speak about his expectations following the swearing in of the new NBA president, Mazi Afam Osigwe. Learned senior advocate of Nigeria, Mr. Adeboro, thank you for joining us at this time. Let's begin with your takeaway from the speech Mazi Osigwe gave on Thursday. He called it an inaugural speech, and it was filled with so many calls for action, what he and his team would be doing. What were your takeaways?
Well, from the start, what you are saying is what is tagged the proactive bar. It's to show you that the executive needs disputes, particularly in this dispensation in Nigeria. We need this kind of executive that is proactive. And in taking off in that manner, we need a bar that can deliver the dividends or ensure that the delivery of dividends of democracy to the masses. We need an NBA that can bridle the excessive and the reckless parts of the executive. Now, what we are having now is vibrant young men that constitute the new executive members of NBA. And from the takeoff, from the inaugural speech, you can deduce that this kind of executive means business, and they will surely meet the expectation of the masses. I assure you that, you know, a lot of expectations on MBA. MBA as the watchdog of the government. I would say, well, they've lived up to a standard to some extent, but we need to the fullest extent. And that is what this MBA, the executive of MBA, is going to give Nigerians. Nigerians should expect a vibrant, productive MBA this time around. And the executive should know that someone or a pressure group has been bad, that will ensure that things should be done properly. And if they've not been doing that before now, is this a wake-up call?
Mr. Adeboro, can you give us or highlight some of those things that you're expecting from this new leadership at this time?
First of all, the welfare of lawyers, which is the primary constituency, will be guaranteed under this new MBA. Lawyers will be treated with dignity. Now, you observe the way Amanas, the law enforcement agencies in Nigeria treat people. Now, we are going to see correction. We're going to see a new dimension in the interface between the law enforcement agencies and the general public, because the MBA will be on their toes in respect of this one. Then, as per government, you know, the essence of MBA as a pressure group is to ensure that the executive arm of government does its duties in accordance to the law. Now, the MBA that we have now will not tolerate any act of aberration, any act that is contrary to law. So this MBA will constantly be a check on the executive government. That is why I said that we are having vibrant executive. Because we look at it from the president to the general secretary, to all the members of the executive from MBA, because they are very young, and the ability is there, the ability is there, the energy is there. So they're going to give us what we expect from them.
Right, and of course the new president has promised to hold governments at all levels accountable, especially the federal and the states government. And from what we have seen, as a keen observer, I'm sure you would also agree that the plate of Afam Osigwe is basically full. He has said they're going to monitor closely compliance with the Supreme Court's judgment that gives and affirms autonomy for local governments, financial autonomy especially. How do you see this working out? How practical would this be, looking at the fact that barristers, learned silks as yourself are usually employed on both divides, for and against a matter in court? How do you see this panning out realistically?
You see, realistically is no person as an individual can function. You are not almighty. And you have started by setting up committees to handle different aspects of governance. And lawyers act within the law. And if any lawyer acts outside the law or into contravention of the law, they are laid down procedure for punishment. But I understand the fear of everybody that lawyers will, again, come and defend people that have been alleged to have committed crime. But that is the constitutional rule that the constitution have laid upon lawyers. That even if you know that somebody has committed a crime, that does not mean you cannot protect or defend him, although there are exceptions. So I am of opinion that the NBA will live up to expectation. They have rolled out their lines of action and the mechanism to function and to perform these lines of action are set in place. Where you see all those committees that he has announced, and there are other committees that are still coming to help NBA to perform effectively, particularly this executive, to perform effectively. So there's no cause for alarm.
I love the fact that you made mention of that this MBA is vibrant with the emergence of the new chairman, talking about productivity and serving as a watchdog to the government. Let's talk about some of the judicial reforms that the MBA will also be bringing on board. Can you tell us or walk us through some of those things that you see as challenges in the judiciary at the moment?
Well, the judiciary, particularly in terms of corruption, the welfare of judges, and others. Well, we already the law has set up the body responsible for that. However, they will need the cooperation of MBA, because MBA is representative of all the lawyers. So to that extent, they need MBA to cooperate with them in order to move the judiciary forward. And again, there are committees that oversee that, MBA committees that oversee that. And actually, there is need for reform. There is, except you want to disperse here. But in reality, something urgent must be done to ensure that the judiciary is purged of bad eggs. And I assure you that this MBA will live up to expectation in respect of that.
All right. Okay, let's, on a broader scale now, we've just spoken about, the judiciary. But then there's also this talk about that Afam Osigwe spoke about, reviewing decisions of appellate courts. And he has also set up a committee which you have, spoken briefly on. But I want to take you up on that. To what extent do you agree with the presidency now regarding the mandate of this committee to now start to review the judgments of appellate courts, especially where they come in conflict with one another? I wonder how you see this whole thing, the impact of what the committee will do and what the country stands to gain from their work.
This is another area that is very, very necessary and urgent to deal with respect to conflicts of judgments in Nigeria by the Court of Jurisdiction, by Court of Appeal, even Supreme Court. There are a lot of conflicts of judgments. Now, the committee will ensure that these judgments are synthesized, synchronized, and ensure that we streamline them to ensure that we don't face that kind of problem. With law pavilion, with the use of law pavilion, that's where we've discovered that a lot of judgments are in conflict with one another. So with this, the law pavilion will aid to some extent the committee to ensure that those judgments are brought together and ensure see how they can be reconciled there before it's a difficult task anyway, but if you come, the judgment of Supreme Court is clear that if there are conflicts of judgment, that two judgments are in conflict with each other. Now what you do is that the latter in time will prevail. So once you can do that, once you can bring all these judgments together, all we need to do is to say, okay, what do we do? Maybe you take, if a matter of similar facts goes back to Supreme Court or Court of Appeal, the court will now decide based on the latest position of law. So it's a big task for the committee, but it's doable.
Mm-hmm.
It's a big task indeed, and there's this common saying that the judiciary is the last hope of the common man. How do we restore that dignity back to the judiciary in the country that the common man out there can say, it's my last hope. I have judges who are not corrupt, that will give judgment according to what it is.
Judiciary is still the last hope of common man. That status still remains. I agree that there might be some judges who are corrupt, but to categorize everybody or every judge as being corrupt, I don't think that is correct. That would be a generalization argument, which I don't agree with. I have said this severally, that look, if anybody is corrupt, if a judge is corrupt, if you report such a judge to the appropriate body, the matter will be looked into. We have seen how so many matters in Nigeria have been looked into, and some judges shown out of service. So that position still remains. So judiciary is still the last hope of common. Go and ask some governors in Nigeria, they will tell you that judiciary is still the last hope of common man.
Remember, these people are good too.
All right, let's quickly ask you one more question before we let you go. Talking about the calls for a new constitution, we've seen, that it has been raging year in, year out, and yet again we are having, key stakeholders who are advocating the need for a new constitution. What do you think?
Well, my opinion, I don't think constitution is our problem. We have attitudinal problems in this country. Lack of discipline. Other countries in the world, they function because of self-discipline, but we lack it here. People behave the way they like, particularly when they get to a position of authority. They don't obey the law. So the law is meant for two sets of persons: those who are privileged, who are in high places, and those who are commoners. So the issue of the amendment of the constitution, or holistically having a constitution by jettisoning the 1999 constitution, I don't think that we have enough provisions in our constitution. And gradually, by pronouncement of courts and by amendment of the legislative arm, we are moving forward. Several provisions have been amended. For instance, what happened in Faleke, in Yaya Bello and Faleke in Kogi State, when Bello died, when the election was being conducted, when they had not been concluded. Now, when Luka pronounced on that position, it was codified. As a matter of fact, it's a provision in the constitution now.
Right. So
gradually, like that, we can get our hearts together and move the country forward. So not holistic jettisoning of the 1999 constitution, to me, is not the solution to the Nigeria problem.
All right, we thank you very much, Mr. Adamson Adeboro, SAN. Thank you very much for your contributions on the program.
It's my pleasure. It's my pleasure. Thank you.
We'll take a break now and return.